Howdy diddly, knee burritos. Today's thing with the squeaky chair is about what is a setup and what is not a setup. Something like that anyway. A guitar came in and I thought, well, this is a good example of what you can't do much for in terms of setup. So this oldish Fender Tele was refretted about 25 years ago apparently. And the wear and tear on it is clearly visible, as we will see in some V2. So on my website, it says, and I quote, that when you're setting up, the above services assume your guitar is mechanically sound with clean moving parts, a healthy truss rod and nut, the neck is undistorted, and doesn't require a shim. I should have said something about frets there, but nonetheless. Right, setting up a guitar is a little bit like fine-tuning, let's just say a car. You drive your car into the mechanics, and let's just say you're a bit of a nerd, and you say, I want this type of oil filter. I don't like this stock oil. I want to use, some magical stuff. You're fine-tuning it to your tastes. I don't like these kinds of tires. I want these performance tires. You're taking a working thing, and you're just kind of spicing it up to your taste. That's what happens with a setup on a guitar. If you have a guitar that's 1 billion years old and has lots and lots of wear and tear, you are so outside of the guitar setup scenario. That would be a little bit like taking, your car into the garage and it's smoking, there's this black exhaust coming out of it, the brakes are squeaking, the windows don't work, and then saying to the mechanic, well, I think she just needs a wee bit of a tune-up. No, it needs a lot more than that to get it healthy again. Now, the conundrum in this case was the customer brought this guitar in and originally said that he wanted a setup. And so I thought, okay, give me a look at it. And instantly I was like, ooh, no, we're beyond setting up here. But didn't want to go for a refret, so that's fine. Let's watch a little bit of video about the frets, the condition of the frets on this guitar. You can see the fingerboard is, well, it's a little bit dirty, definitely very dirty. We've got some, just years of dirt and finger grime. When we're looking at fretting notes, obviously we press the string down and the string hits the fret and that's your note. But I want to point your attention to this, okay? Here is our fret. And down below here we have the tang of the fret. Now the tang is in the middle of the fret. The slot that the tang fits into, well, that is part of the designed scale for the guitar. So when you fret a note, in theory, the note should actually be in the center of the fret. And that is one of the reasons that frets are round at the top. Now in this case, where they're squared off, what's going on is, rather than the note happening at the center of the fret, it's actually taking place at the front of the fret. So whatever that distance is, it's not much, from the center to that sort of squared off edge. That is actually going to put your intonation off. Here we can see a very deep channel in that fret. Now that comes from just years and years of erosion of good use. Now, in this guitar's case, we're kind of lucky because when I bend the string, I'm not getting any grounding out because as you can see over here, there's another channel too. So the frets are actually kind of even with each other, even though the frets themselves are uneven. So what can I do with a guitar like this? Well, the action here is kind of high, given that the fret is so worn down. There's a big space in between the bottom of the string and the top of the fret. So I could file this slot a little deeper, which is in fact what I am going to do because the customer in this case does not want a refret. Personally, I think it definitely needs a refret. But if the customer doesn't want it, then that's fine by me. So what can I do for this guitar? Not a whole lot. I can adjust the action. I can clean it up, that's kind of it. The frets are so low, they're so worn that recrowning them to get a nice rounded top so the note hits the center of the fret, I don't think it's going to happen with this. I could try, but we'll see how I get on. But my feeling is that this is not a guitar that needs a setup, it needs a refret. And of course, with a refret, you get the setup after that too. So maybe this is a good before and after type of thing. So watch the space that happens right after this. And so here we are after with a shaky little pan. Oh my God. You can see I couldn't really let it lie. I couldn't just do nothing. So I gave the frets, I suppose what you might call a fret dressing. I had to take the square edges off. So now they're a bit more rounded at the top. Over up in this area here, we've still got some really deep pits in the frets, and the intonation is just going to be what it is there. But I took the action down at the nut here, cutting the slots a little bit deeper, and that helped a little bit because the string wasn't stretching as much to get in, and so the notes are a little bit more sort of even. And then down in the other end here, the saddles needed a little bit of adjusting. I didn't touch the height. I only did the scale length for the intonation. Now, why did I do that? I did that because the owner of this guitar is a blues player. So, generally speaking, with blues setups, you'll have a slightly higher action so that when you bend the strings, they don't have to fight the uphill battle like I mentioned in another video. And also, the higher they are to a point, the note rings a little bit clearer. So when you're talking about big old blues bends and that, you want nice, crispy, clear notes. So that's precisely why I left the action the way it was. The only alteration to the action was at the nut. I didn't even bother with the truss rod. It even has the same strings on it as it came in with. So it's kind of a, wouldn't say it's a battle of wits, it's a battle of sensibilities. If you're sitting at home thinking, hey, I have a guitar sitting in the attic that looks a bit like this, I think, I'm just going to get it set up. I beg you, get it refretted. It'll be so much better. Now, what reason do I have for that? Remember earlier on I complained that the frets were so low. What happens with low frets is you're playing them fine, okay, they're low. They could be perfectly rounded, fine, your intonation is okay, as mentioned, but when they're really, really low, your fingers start to drag across the fretboard a little more. You'll note that there's a bit more friction because the higher the frets are, the less work you have to do really to get the string to meet there. And sometimes the string just kind of keeps your finger up just slightly off the fingerboard a bit. So when they get really, really low, your finger drags and you can really start to feel that. If you like big old smooth bends, that's why you want to have nice big tall frets. So there's a little bit of give and take on this. It's cleaned. The intonation is a little bit better. I had to take the square edges off the frets. I couldn't live with myself giving it back in the same condition. Now, overall, the playability hasn't really improved at all. I mean, I didn't change the action other than up there. Some of the frets were so banged up, they had big scores in them. So some of that has been addressed. You've still got the deep pits. Not a whole lot I can do. So, yeah, it works okay. Could really do with a refret. But for now, with this closure of chapter, I bid you goodbye and may your rock and roll gods go with you.